All right, let's dive into this explainer. Today, we're looking at the historic regulatory overhaul that's going to hit the medical device industry on February 2026. For over 25 years, the FDA's Quality System Regulation, the QSR, has been the absolute law of the land for anyone manufacturing or selling medical devices in the United States. But, well, that era is ending. We're officially moving to the new Quality Management System Regulation, the QMSR. And let me be clear, this isn't just a minor update or some quick paperwork change, it's a fundamental paradigm shift. It explicitly aligns U.S. regulations with the international ISO 13485 standard. So whether you're a regulatory affairs veteran or a quality assurance manager, this change is absolutely going to impact every single facet of your daily operations.
To help us manage the cognitive load of all these complex legal changes, here's our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. The 2026 MedTech Revolution. 2. Harmonizing the FDA and ISO. 3. Decoding the alphabet soup. 4. Mastering process validation. 5. The new inspection reality. And finally, 6. Your roadmap to compliance.
So, let's kick things off with Section 1, the 2026 MedTech Revolution.
For decades, quality systems have kind of evolved on parallel tracks. Back in 1978, the FDA published the initial quality system regulation. Fast forward to 1996, and ISO 13485 was introduced as the global standard for medical device quality systems. Because of the split, manufacturers often had to maintain completely redundant dual quality systems just to satisfy both U.S. law and international markets. It was a huge headache. But then, in February 2024, the FDA published the QMSR final rule, officially bridging this gap. And that brings us to the most important date looming ahead, February 2nd, 2026. That is the exact day the old rules are completely tossed out and the new QMSR takes full legal effect.
Which brings us right into Section 2, harmonizing the FDA and ISO.
So how exactly is this working? The FDA is bridging the gap by incorporating ISO 13485-2016 by reference into the new 21 CFR Part 820. This essentially makes the international standard U.S. federal law. It's a huge step for reducing redundant compliance efforts. However, and this is key, they aren't totally abandoning their unique authority. The FDA is keeping specific requirements. Things like Part 803 for medical device reporting, Part 821 for device tracking, and Part 830 for unique device identification. So no, you can't just slap a standard ISO manual on an FDA inspector's desk and call it a day.
And that leads to a crucial point. While this international alignment is fantastic news, especially if you're exporting, an existing ISO certificate is absolutely not a free pass. The FDA has been very clear about this. Having an ISO 1345 certification from a third-party auditor does not mean you're immune to FDA oversight. You still have to meet those specific, retained FDA requirements, and the FDA will still be the ones walking through your doors to conduct inspections and enforce them.
Okay, let's move on to Section 3, decoding the alphabet soup.
We all know the medtech industry literally runs on acronyms, but you're going to need to update your vocabulary. We're officially saying goodbye to the Device Master Record, the DMR, and saying hello to the Medical Device File. The Design History File, or DHF, that's now the Design and Development File. And look at CAPA, Corrective and Preventative Action. Under the new rules, this whole concept is split into two completely distinct processes, corrective action on one side and preventive action on the other. Finally, the old role of a single delegated management representative is being replaced by top management, which really implies a much higher CEO level of accountability for your entire quality system.
So, what exactly is the new medical device file? Well, think of the MDF as your ultimate blueprint, or your master recipe for compliantly manufacturing your medical device. While it does replace the old DMR, it's actually a much broader concept now. It includes your specifications, your labeling, the intended use, and even the risk management documentation. It's the complete, comprehensive file that absolutely proves your device conforms to all the applicable regulatory requirements. And right alongside that, we have the Design and Development File, or DDF. This one tracks the history and the continuous evolution of your design, making sure you have full traceability. It's going to contain everything, from your initial user needs and design inputs, to verification and validation results, all the way through to design transfer. The core function is basically the same as the old DHF you're used to, but the terminology now perfectly mirrors those international expectations.
All right, let's jump to Section 4, Mastering Process Validation.
This is an area we really have to pay attention to because process validation consistently ranks as a top 3 to 5 deficiency in FDA warning letters literally year after year. It remains a massive compliance trap. Failing to properly validate processes still lands companies in very hot water, which just proves that this critical requirement is either widely misunderstood or just dangerously neglected across the industry.
So ask yourself this common question to kind of challenge what you might think you know about manufacturing requirements. Do you actually need to validate every single process? I mean, a lot of people just assume that every step on the manufacturing floor needs some massively complex validation protocol. But the regulations, both the legacy QSR and the new ISO-aligned QMSR, are actually incredibly specific about what triggers validation.
And here's the answer. You only validate if the output cannot be 100% verified. The crucial point here is that if you can't test every single unit without destroying it, you must validate the process. Think about it. Let's say you're testing the seal strength of a sterile barrier pouch. If you destructively test every single pouch to prove the seal is good, well, you aren't going to have any products left to actually sell. Because you cannot 100% verify the output non-destructively, you have to rely on process validation. This goes for sterilization, injection molding, welding, you name it.
And that validation is built on 3 sequential pillars. First up is installation qualification, or IQ. This simply ensures your machines are installed correctly according to their specs. Next is operational qualification, OQ, which tests your process at its absolute limits to make sure it still meets product requirements even under stress. And finally, performance qualification, or PQ. This tests the process under normal, everyday operating conditions to guarantee it consistently produces a safe, effective device over time.
Next up is Section 5, the new inspection reality. Okay, here's where things get very real. The FDA is completely tossing out their old inspection playbook and replacing it with a framework explicitly aligned to ISO 1385. For decades, FDA inspectors used the Quality System Inspection Technique, known as QSIT. Well, that is officially retired as of February 2, 2026. In its place is the new Compliance Program 7382.850. This means inspectors will literally be using an ISO-based checklist when they walk through your doors.
Now pay close attention, because here is the most critical shift of all. Internal audit records, which used to be shielded to encourage self-reporting, are now entirely fair game for FDA inspectors. Under the old rules, the FDA generally didn't look at your internal audit reports. They wanted to encourage companies to find and fix their own problems without fear of being punished. But under the new QMSR, those records are explicitly inspectable. Furthermore, inspectors are going to be looking for direct involvement from your CEO and top executives, not just your quality manager. And remember that CAPA split? They're going to expect to see entirely distinct processes and justifications for corrective actions versus preventive actions. Which leads us to our final section, Section 6, your roadmap to compliance. So whether you're operating right here in the US or exporting from abroad, these top 5 critical actions serve as your ultimate to-do list before 2026. First, you absolutely must conduct a formal gap analysis to map your current system against ISO 1345 and those retained FDA requirements. Second, carefully plan your system architecture. You need to design your documents and processes so they are natively compliant from the ground up. Third, train your staff. The everyday vocabulary on the floor literally needs to change. Fourth, integrate risk management, specifically ISO 14971, into every single process, not just design. And finally, run mock FDA inspections using the new compliance program framework to really pressure test your team.
So take this information, apply it to your operations, and start building your compliance strategy today. Because the companies that actually thrive in this new era won't just be checking boxes. They're going to use this harmonization to modernize their operations, eliminate redundant, fragmented tools, and turn their regulatory affairs into a true commercial advantage. The February 2026 deadline is locked in, and the rules of the game have officially changed. The only question left is, will your quality management system be a liability or a strategic advantage when that day comes?